Yeah, I suggested that start.
All right, call to order. Roll call.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Here.
Chairman Landers,
Here.
Commissioner McGee,
Here.
Commissioner Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Councilmember Blevins,
Here.
and Commissioner Wilhoit.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you do have a quorum. All members are present.
Good deal. Approval of the agenda.
If I could ask, do you need to amend it, David?
I do.
Okay.
I need to request the amendment.
I need to request to amend it, the minutes that are listed on your agenda are last month's minutes, but those are not the ones that are up for approval tonight. The ones up for approval tonight are January 23rd, 2005 minutes. So I ask that you change that,
Okay.
and then whatever Tom wants.
Tom, what do you want to change?
A discussion item for Cooper Academy. They want to make change. Cooper Academy was approved, sometime last year by the planning commission, and they want to make changes to the phase.
Where do you want that, Tom?
Since it's a discussion item, we can put it at the very end of,
Staff report,
excuse me.
staff report.
Yes, that'll be fine. We can do that.
You want to add that to staff reports,
Yes.
and then we've got a amendment for the minutes being January the 23rd. The two changes. I'll make a motion to approve those, the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Vote. Motion carries. All right, approval of the minutes from the planning commission meeting of January.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Speak, I think.
All right, let's get to the comments.
Richard Stackpole. I'm sorry.
Actually, Dana go first.
Okay, Dana Bobo.
All right, you do have 3 minutes,
Okay.
and she's gonna cut you off at 3 minutes.
That's fine. I'll try to go fast.
Good evening.
Hello, thank y'all for letting me speak just for a second. I'm Dana Bobo. I live at 2310 Midland Road, which backs up to the property that you all are about to be considering tonight, Curl's property that they're wanting to rezone as C2. Our property, we share a property line with it. We have horses on our property. My daughter and I and my sister and her kids ride our horses on that property all the time. And we're very concerned about the changes that's going to come with that property being rezoned as C2. The safety of working with our horses is going to be a huge issue. There are several things on the report that Mr. Batchelor has prepared that I have questions about. I know I can't ask all those in 3 minutes. But one of the things is that we understand that he's quoting it as zoned R4 currently. And when Mr. Curl bought the property and sent us the first letters 2 years ago, it was zoned R2. And so to my knowledge and to our knowledge, and also to Johnny Breed's knowledge, the Register of Deeds, it has not been changed to R4. And so we just want to point that out, that you're moving from R2 to C2. Instead of R4 to C2. We also want to point out that all of the property around this property is single-family dwellings. My sisters and I own 3 of the parcels that back up to this property. We've been there for 25 plus years, so we've been accustomed to the quiet that we've had at our property. The beautiful tree line that we've had, they've almost completely taken it out, and the noise pollution that comes from the highway is now really, it's the change is dramatically felt in our property. So I just want to ask y'all to really consider not changing this to C2. It will change our property values, I'm afraid, and it'll change our quality of life in our homes on that property. So just please really think very strongly about that, and if that's really something that's going to be good for our neighborhood. I don't know how long it'll be up, but thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Being there no others?
No, Mr.
Oh.
Jack Poe, he just let her go.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
Um,
Go ahead.
You also have 3 minutes.
thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for everybody just letting me take a few minutes of your time. I did want to also speak on item B for today's agenda, which was the Curl property. One item that stood out on that was the Hodges property that is right beside it is listed as a vacant lot on that report. On top of the already mentioned, we believe it's an R2 still, and we think the R2 to C2 disparity is significant compared to the R4 to C2 disparity. We really wanted to highlight that, and the findings of it being compatible. We think that we don't agree with that finding. But I don't need to take any more of y'all's time. I just wanted to reiterate that. She said it a lot better than I did. So thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all I have.
All right, that is all. Moving into old business, there's none, so we're moving right on into new business. A, consideration of an architectural design amendment for a 2,269 square foot drive-through Starbucks coffee facility addressed as 747 North Main, identified in Bedford County tax records, its tax map 078P, Group D, parcels 9 and 10, zone C2. It's a general business. Total acreage of the parcel is 0.87 acres. JTM, North Main Street developer, Berry Engineers LLC is the representative. And the site plan and architectural design approval was made on December the December 24 meeting. So Thomas, take it away.
This should be pretty straightforward. Because and this is the Starbucks location, and the only thing that is being approved or requested for change is the material on the facade. And since the approval was made by this commission, I brought it back for the amendment. So as you can see, and I don't have a pointer because our KCI took our pointer. They're sending it back, but to the left, you can see the original elevations, and then the new one is to the right. And what the difference is that you have EPIS being replaced. This is a little bit better, easier to read. So instead of fiber cement, they're using EPIS. The other is a composite wood plank, but it looks very similar to the previous one. So really the only one in consideration is the EPIS material. And if you look at our design standards for it, it's consistent with it. So requesting approval of the change of materials.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
Setbacks and everything on the property is already there. Are we looking at?
It's already there.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the material change.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, roll call.
Sorry, was that vote?
Yes.
Okay, vote. Okay, thank you. I knew it come from that way, though.
Sure.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilhoit.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. B, consideration of rezoning application from R4 high-density residential to C2 general business for partial approximately 14.77 acres fronting 231 North, identified in Bedford County tax records as tax map 069, parcel 4, tract 1, Curl Properties LLC owner, Scott St. John LLC is representative. Tract 1 was given, is given for the identification purposes. That's not the actual address.
Okay, so as you can see, this is right just northwest of the bypass. And I will say that the records for this, it was somewhat chaotic. It was, the applicant, was under the impression it was rezoned to a PUD. But I don't believe it ever took place, and that was back in 2022, maybe, 2022, 23. It was never, it never made it to a PUD. So, to start off, this is just the basis for the analysis, whether it's consistent, and compatible with the city zoning maps, whether according to the Shelbyville municipal zoning ordinance, neighborhood conditions, and then, you can see the other ones are highest best use of requested zoning and how it compares with the neighborhood and compatibility. And, I don't need to go through the whole thing because you have that in your report. This is the recorded plat that shows that it was R4, but it could be a mistake on it. Because when I went back and looked for the zoning ordinance as well, I was unable to find it. But I will point out that in our zoning, both R4 and C2 requires buffering between uses. And where the speakers came in, they live on the west side in the back there. You can see the parcels, the 4 parcels that are backing up against or adjacent to it.
To that point, I did go back and look at 2022 minutes during July, I think 28.
Yes.
And when there was a favorable recommendation to that, there were R4, and I think there was another one. But I don't know what happened at the city council level.
Did council act on it?
That's what I don't know, but there was that. But just to clear that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. Can I-
Sure.
So Tom, you have a copy of the annexation resolution, I assume,
Yes, I did.
as signed, adopted, council.
As well as
Lisa
client
said it's
services.
okay. Was there an accompanying rezoning resolution, or excuse me, ordinance, not?
Not that I found. And so this was the only thing that I had as a reference for, and this is what the applicant remembered as well, was that he had C2 on the front, fronting on 231 and R4 in the back. And I don't know, Scott St. John is here that did you work on this?
I did, but I'm like you, Todd, we would have to go back and check our records.
These are your records you're looking at.
That's
Did you
correct.
ask Lisa to check council records?
I did, but,
We can't find them?
yes.
I don't remember checking, I'm sorry.
I mean, I would say that it's almost irrelevant to the proposal in front of us of what the current use is. Although y'all might want to clear that out.
When did you say
That was July 28th of 2022.
that we made a favorable
Yeah, it was
recommendation? Right, but
disgusting.
that gives me-
Those are when the minutes, those are when the minutes were, I guess that would be the.
I do have a question. Is the application to rezone the whole parcel or just that eastern part of the parcel that abuts 231?
No,
Because
rezoning
the
app.
back half will still remain residential that abuts other properties.
No, the rezoning application is site specific, so the parcel in question is that back half, that is to the western side.
On whether it's gonna be R2 or R4.
That's gonna be
It's
C2.
not-
They're requesting the parcel to be C2.
Okay, so they're requesting the whole square to be
Yes,
C2.
they would like to have
Okay,
it.
that's what I needed to clarify.
Yes.
Because some of the documents that I was looking at earlier today, it appeared that they were trying to just keep the C2 on 231.
No, the intent is to actually make the entire parcel C2.
C2, okay.
The future land map says it's all compatible with C2, doesn't it?
That's correct.
I will go to that. Yes, this is actually in the Gateway Corridor character area. And you can see the subject parcel there. Most appropriate is along there is C2.
That's just after the bypass, right? That's, state.
Yeah, or it could be residential PUDs as well. So mixed PUD, could be compatible as well. But what they're requesting is C2 because they've got development plans for it.
What is the buffering requirement between the C2 and their property? And also what is the setback? How close could they build to this property line, the commercial building?
Sure. So residential setback, The parcels to the west are all residential uses.
Correct. How much buffer are they gonna get if we let them build a big box store? How much buffer are they gonna get, and then how far off the property line will we require that commercial building to be?
30, let's see, did I put that in here?
I looked at my
I think
page.
it was 35 feet.
So there's a 35-foot rear
Yes,
setback.
for the rear setback, but there's also screening requirements.
And buffers could be discussed down the road whenever the site plans come along.
That's correct.
So-
This is
so
only
This
rezoning,
is just a rezoning, so, I mean.
the site development
I
aspect
hate that
of
the
it.
natural buffer has been removed or somewhat. That natural buffer would have been nice to keep there, but, you know, it's not gonna be out of the works that there won't be, that the applicant would have to put a buffer there. And we can make those requirements down the road.
That's correct. In the site development part, that's where you have regulatory requirements. In the rezoning, this is only for rezoning. So this is the legislative part, but you can see in this photograph, this is 2023, how much trees were in there, and then you look at 2024 and how much has been cleared out.
But the side setbacks, if it was in this zone, they are predetermined, so you are able to set those before us and.
Yes, during the development, yes, when you see two, that's correct.
Oh, what would be required for the buffer? And you said a buffer, what is required?
It could be anywhere from screening to more vegetation, more plants, more landscaping.
All right, now I got another question.
Okay.
If you get into vegetation, and we got into this out Warner's Bridge Road one time, lady said, yeah, they came in and they planted all these nice trees and everything, but it's on a flat rock and they're all dead within 2 months. And they met the requirement, nothing ever
Are
happened.
you raising your hand?
So,
I'm waiting, go ahead.
so what happens then if it all dies?
Well, they're supposed to replant it. I know which one you're talking about with Warner's Bridge.
I just
That
made
was
me think about other stuff too, you know, it could happen.
well, and that points out something that's a weakness within our subdivision regulations as well as within our codes for not requiring any type of credit. Because if you need to plant, certainly there are certain times of the years that are the worst times to plant. I believe that one was in the middle of summer.
And they never water them.
And it died, yes, and they're supposed to replant them.
Okay.
As far as the zoning is concerned, I found a ordinance approving rezoning 27.55 acres owned by Curl Property, tax map 69, parcel 74.01 and 77, from R2 to R3.
That's on Brown Lane, isn't it?
That's not,
It's-
Yeah, that sounds like it's Brown
No,
Lane.
it's not.
that's a different one.
Riddell.
And that's the one I found as well.
Okay, I haven't found anything else, but I would have to go back and look at, without being able to look at all the minutes.
I was unable to find it as well. Because the record said, when we went through the rezoning ordinances, well, when we went through the rezoning ordinance a couple years ago and you had uploaded all those, I have the same record,
I
those same
I
records.
need to go back and.
Well, I'm like, Bo, I don't know.
We got 2 or 3 people talking,
Yes.
you folks need to continue.
We're discussing just the history there of that and what month that where the council, trying to find information where the council has made a decision on it, and
Right.
currently
I agree.
we're not able
I
to
agree.
find that, but I still think that to the decision at hand of us,
Okay.
it's,
I mean, if it's gonna be R2 or R4, irrelevant if we're still wanting to move towards the direction of making a favorable recommendation for C2. It is in our C2 corridor. And so I mean, naturally C2 corridor would abut residential properties behind it because that's the natural course of development. That is our entry gate to Shelbyville right there where we have, that's why we have the development map to show that, you know, that's right there at the bridge, right before you get to the bridge. And so it's a crucial part of.
Bo made a point, I don't know if it's what's really is relevant. I mean, it's in the land map, and I mean, we could do it. I mean,
Do we want a commercial or do we want a residential?
Do you want commercial or residential? That's
When it
the
comes down.
question.
And then that is the conclusion that I came to, was that it matches our documents, our approved maps. C2, is one of the, for the North Gateway corridor, which is why, in my opinion, based on that review, the recommendation is to move forward with the favorable recommendation.
So you raise your hand, Josh. You have a question?
No, I realize it doesn't make any impact on I just feel bad that we're doing this I think we should clean up our records a little better. So I wouldn't mind deferring this month.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah,
That's my recommendation.
yeah, so I'll make a motion to defer that.
I'll second
To get
that.
better
Okay.
research.
It needs to be.
We had a motion for Councilman Blevins and a second for Ms. Gonzalez to defer 1 month and clean up whatever, and then we can take it up next month.
Okay.
Roll call.
Commissioner Livoy,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
and Mayor Carroll.
Yes. All right. C, consideration of site plan application of a 14,400 square foot private transfer station and 4,000 square foot addition to the existing building for transfer station office on 4.03 acre parcel addressed as 210 Cedar King Road, identified as tax record, tax map 89G, Group G, Parcel 18, Zone I2, General Industrial. Cedar King Properties owner, Sadler and Associates Consulting Engineer Representative. And initially in the February Planning Commission meeting, we reviewed this, however, required a zoning ordinance text amendment for the private transfer station land use adapted by the city council on 3/13 of 25 at their meeting. Go ahead, Josh.
Okay, I just have to make one correction here because it's a reusing of the existing building. I don't have my pointer. But the 14,400 square foot private transfer station is a new facility and it required a text amendment, which was adopted by city council. It takes effect tomorrow. Oh, man, actually, I've got a bigger picture here. So the 4,000 square foot is the reusing that is fronting on Cedar King Road. And I found out from one of the representatives that they're finalizing several items that are in our procedural notifications. And I can walk through that at that point. In essence, it met all of our requirements. There were a few things that took longer. Let's see, under the procedural notifications, traffic impact study is still pending, and so we're recommending approval still, but with the following, that the traffic impact study is approved by staff. The recorded cross-access agreements or easements are made and the deed books are provided. Those ones are they're underway. They've been written up, and now Volunteer Materials, who is the other property owner that's adjacent to us, is reviewing it. And then our general comments, which is record the stormwater management agreements, and then Shelbyville Power to inspect and approve the monitor manhole with the septic tank that's required.
Tom, how far are we in the TIS? Is that started yet?
Where?
Oh, it's been ordered for 2 weeks. They're supposed to be starting.
Okay.
Would we, that's one procedural notification we usually, and it's, they can be objective reports, and not that we don't trust the staff to look over, approve them. Is there any way we could defer that to when it's ready and then just knock it all at once? Or what's your basis behind this recommendation?
It's a typical item. In this case, let me go back to my aerial view of this. What we're looking for in this one is the queuing requirements as well as which way the truck routes are going to go. But since this is an industrial road or railroad and the way that they're actually accessing the road out for the larger trucks. The smaller trucks are just gonna drive whatever whichever way that they can get to the facility. I mean, that's solely up to
It's
the
kind of
commission.
something we usually have, you know, I don't know, I mean, I don't want to put anybody behind, but I hate to set a precedent on, on traffic studies, but I mean, if there's a way that when you get it, you could run it by us, just to approve, I believe it's best practice.
I can certainly bring it back, and I will remind the commission that there's been several precedents, including Cooper Academy. And a lot of times it has to do with just the length of time it takes for a traffic study.
Good, I mean,
Because like Hampton Inn, they're spending, I think, up to 2 months on theirs. So we're still waiting for that. That was approved by the commission. It's not like they can build.
It's always been a big, that's the big thing. We just make sure that it's, we know that y'all do exhaustive, the way that y'all run the traffic study and look at it, because they can be objective, and it's just a good practice to run through. But I mean, I don't know. What do y'all think?
Yeah, could be recognized, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I did want to address something else, but I think Councilman Blevins wanted to be recognized.
Actually, similar concern. Yeah, I'm just concerned a big part of the whole reason we held this up was a concern about traffic, trash trucks moving through the city. And this is our final chance to speak on this. This won't go back in front of city council as far as I know, because it's a site plan.
That's correct.
And again, we trust staff and love you, Tom. We trust you completely, but I would rather.
Don't trust me too much.
Review a traffic study on one like this that could be something big in the city, rather than just running it through staff and having appeals.
And may I
That's
say, I
understandable.
think that's fine. Just because you may on one particular application find that it's okay, it's going to be minor, we give a conditional approval, doesn't mean you can't say, nope, we want to see that traffic study. Nothing wrong with that. I would also like to add, Tom, as we're going through, I see there is a cross-access agreement pending. Those are new things that we're doing, these cross-access agreements. Have we had one so far?
Yeah, I mean, there was, let's see, it depends, because some, I'm trying to think, like 7 Brew had a cross-access, but the owner is owning the land, so they didn't need agreement, but they also needed something in their document in order to,
They just agreed to allow on both.
yeah, if they sell the property, it'll have to be created, yes.
Because that's a fairly new thing, I haven't seen them, and I know that might not be between the city and them. I would like to review that before that's approved off. So I would appreciate that those things are submitted in time, that I can see them before they approve it.
Yeah, and in this case, it was, it's similar to the traffic study. There's a little bit of a lag in it.
And I do want to point out, I'm sorry.
Because typically, I'm trying to remember, there was one before me, when Wally presented, there was another one that they did have their agreements in place. But in this case, this one's taking a little bit longer.
Okay.
So it's not typical that we don't have it, so.
All right, so I guess Josh, you want
I guess defer, there's no way to move it through and then bring it back to the traffic station. It's better to just defer it.
Yeah, it's better not to be in gray area.
And not that we're picking on the applicant or anything, but there's another one on down on the agenda that has the same thing.
Okay, so Josh has made a motion to defer, so.
Should we ask the applicant how long they think, is 30 days enough? Do you have any idea on the traffic
They
study?
said they've reached out and they had.
We've ordered it before the last meeting.
Yeah.
So you think 30 days is enough a month?
Yeah. And then.
We can reconsider it
If not-
next month, and if it's not ready, we'll just push it again.
Yeah.
Okay,
You want to
For
defer
one
it until the traffic study's completed.
well, he said
Well, we're
30
meeting
days.
and then we'll
If
check.
it's not done,
Yeah,
we
one
can do
month.
that.
But you're
Of the
deferring it
traffic study.
forward.
For the traffic
Reason,
study
yes.
and the
Traffic
cross
study.
access.
And I'll second them.
All right, motion made, seconded, roll call.
Commissioner Moore,
Yeah.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodhoy,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
and Commissioner McGee.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Consideration of a site plan application for 3,269 square foot addition parking lot, restriping and signage improvements to existing Walmart Supercenter addressed at 1880 North Main, identified in Bedford County tax records as tax map 69, parcel 31. Parcel is 25.9 acres, zone C2. Building size after addition is 191,782 square feet. Walmart Real Estate Business Trust owner, Carlson Consultant Representative.
Okay, so this one's the store edition, and the next one you'll see that there's another distribution center edition. As you can see, it's just a small addition onto the side of the building. There's not a lot of controversy in this one, I guess. Some parking improvements on it. This is the elevations. Since this is not fronting on the right of way, you know, technically it falls within their franchise as far as the materials that they use in the design standards. There was only one procedural notification, and this had to do with the sewer construction, and that we're recommending approval of it with the one procedural notification that it be inspected at the time of the installation.
Tom, may I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
The developer we met with the other day on the development behind Victory Baptist Church,
Yes, yes.
how is this gonna affect that?
It doesn't. If I go back to the aerial photograph, here's to the north, and that was one of my comments
Okay.
in my report,
Right.
was that there, because they have a lot of buffering, tree buffering between the uses,
Okay,
they could meet the requirement. And that was the reason for this, the image on the right there where it says landscape buffering. Because that's within our design standard that they're supposed to meet that, so.
and that access he was talking about, trying to go across properties to get through that won't affect.
Yeah, this one doesn't affect that at all.
Okay. Any other questions? Motion.
Motion to approve with the one procedural notification.
Motion made, seconded. Roll call.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yeah.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodhoy,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill.
Yes.
Thank you.
E, consideration of a site plan application for 706,156 square foot addition on existing Walmart distribution center addressed at 285 Frank Martin Road, identified in Bedford County tax records as tax map 50, parcel 25.08. Parcel is 133.14 acres, is zone I1. Light industrial, let's see, building size after addition is 1,077,962 square feet. Walmart Stores East LP owner, Fuller Engineering is the representative. It's one big building.
It is one giant building, and this is one that you're thinking.
A lot of rock, huh?
It'd be the largest in Bedford County.
I did not put the entire plan in there or the sections, I just put one plan,
Probably.
so you can see the whole building
Yes, this
here.
is the one that I was.
Yes, and for this one with the traffic study, we received it and Will's reviewing it. We received it maybe, I want to say it was last week, so it's still under review and because of the size of the project. But as far as meeting all the requirements, they met all the planning requirements. There was, landscaping, as well as the type of building in the industrial zone. You can have this type of, material. It's not fronting on the right of way again. The sewerage part of it, the drawings were delivered to Shelbyville Power. And John Freeman is fine with addressing any of his comments in the report at the time of construction. He just wants to make sure that he's there during that time period and it can be, they can address all the comments then. So he's not worried about as far as his comments being missed, but we did recommend, staff did recommend approval of it with the 3 procedural notifications before receiving any grading or building permit, that all the comments of the SPWS is addressed. That the traffic study, at the time that I wrote this, the traffic study we hadn't received it, but we have received it since. It's under review by Will Owen right now. We just don't have a determination from there. And then any stormwater management agreement, that's just a general comment for that.
I think I think it ought to be reviewed, fully reviewed, and then that way we can be presented to kind of the same kind of deal. And I mean, this area off of North Main, it's a heavily trafficked area. So I just feel more comfortable if we could do the same as we did to the prior applicant, so we can be able to be more transparent to review that.
Okay.
I'll make that motion to defer 30 days. Would that be fine with staff?
Sufficient, yes.
Okay.
Can we speak to that real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, so the traffic study has been completed. It was just a recommendation of some minor striping. There's no major, it's not a huge traffic increase based off what's there.
Thank you.
We did turn that in. I would appreciate if we could keep it on. But
I'm getting a lot of complaints, and I appreciate y'all being here tonight. That road with the gravel trucks and stuff, have we got plans do we have plans with Walmart maybe to do some, repair to that road or repaving that road?
I think Ginger might be able to speak more to it because that was part of a meeting that happened right around the times when the first complaints were coming in, and we met with the engineers as well as with Walmart. I just wasn't part of the whole.
If I can.
Yes.
I can't tell you precisely what those are. I know that Buck Valad, our Public Works Director, has been in contact with them a lot about managing not only construction, traffic, but also what they've had to do to kind of keep the road going during this time. Part of that road also, the traffic has been going on, is part of our ongoing SIA project out there. So the city and the county have been working very closely together, Mark Clanton for the county and Buck for the city, on how to address those issues. I'm sorry, I can't tell you exactly what they are. So.
Yes, I know Mark Clanton's very much involved as well with.
Well, I've got folks stopping me on the grocery store, every place is. We're also, is this warehousing or can you tell us that? What the building's gonna be for?
it's warehouse, it's cold storage warehouse.
Dry goods or refrigeration or both?
Refrigerator.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
And I will say the traffic you're seeing now is much higher than it will be when it's.
Yes.
And I knew Mark had said yesterday, there was some discussion about the traffic and things like that. I think they're sending some of that traffic, the gravel trucks down Midland Road. So be careful in that area out there with that traffic. And it has to be done for building. It just has to be done.
Okay. All right, I do have a motion on the floor.
Motion to defer 30 days, please.
Yes, I do have a motion, so we're either gonna have to get a second, let it die, or vote on it, or whatever. If I get a second, we'll vote on it.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, I do have a second. Roll call.
This is a motion to defer this item for 30 days to allow the traffic study to be reviewed by the planning commission.
By the staff and then presented.
By staff and
Planning
planning
commission
commission.
and reviewed, I guess.
Can I ask that be
Sure.
deferred to the next meeting?
I would defer it to the next
Thank you.
meeting on guidance by the council.
30 days.
Very good.
Yeah, but they have.
And I should-
Okay, ready for roll call?
We are.
Okay, we'll start with Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Mower,
Yes.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
and Commissioner Wilson.
All right. F, consideration of preliminary plat, major subdivision cul-de-sac right-of-way extension and dedication located at 113 Cobb Street, identified in Bedford County tax records as tax map 89F, Group G, parcel 1606, 113 Cobb Street is zone C2, general business. Joshua Green, owner, Scott St. John, representative.
Okay, so we're talking about 4,582, and some change square feet. As you can see in the image here, Cobb Street, there's a cul-de-sac that is proposed. There's also construction drawings that are, currently being reviewed for it. And it is to serve the parcel that's highlighted to the, east of Cobb Street. And it's exactly what it is, right away to serve Cobb Street. This is it's a dual nexus for dedication, and there are no procedural notifications, and a recommendation is approved. Staff recommendation is to approve.
Motion, anyone?
Just a quick question, do you know, it's C2, so is there some kind of commercial plan back here? Is it a commercial PUD or just?
It'll be coming in April.
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you know what the idea is?
Yes, it's a commercial site plan. There's multiple, buildings that are proposed.
Is this in the 100-year, 500-year floodplain?
Uh,
How much of the site is?
See there, it's in the floodplain,
Looks like
and they can
50%
mitigate for
of
it.
it is.
They'll have to meet the floodplain
Yeah, so I
requirements.
assume there'll be some site preparation for anything.
And Cooper Academy is to the north of that.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I've got a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilhoit,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Chairman Landers.
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Mower,
Yes.
Councilmember Blevins.
Yes.
Okay. All right, G, consideration of preliminary plat, major subdivision, Rollins Lane subdivision, 16 single-family lots on R3. Total development area is 5.05 acres, located on Fowler Road, identified in Bedford County tax records, tax map 90, parcel 94.12. Concept review in June of 24, Brett Rollins, owner, Crow Lane Land Surveying Representative, and this area is also subject to the moratorium area.
Yes.
Take them away.
All right, so this is for 16 residential lots in the R3 zoning district. And as you can see, since it's in the moratorium area, no water and sewer taps are available until the moratorium ends. And I don't know if you recall, but in our discussion during the concept review, as far as the moratorium and the impact on this project, is that basically the applicant can move through planning commission and basically will sit until the water or the moratorium ends. I mean, I don't know if he could do it. He might be able to do, well, actually, I don't think he's able to do any type of construction on there, and he's just reserving this at this point.
Yeah, because he wouldn't be able to do anything because let's just say theoretically it was never lifted. They'd never have water.
Or
But
sewer.
does that not encroach into his, timing for construction?
It's vested rights.
Vested rights.
Yeah.
I was trying to get his attention.
Yep.
But Ginger, go ahead.
Yes, sir, I was gonna say that. When this came down, when Shelbyville Power notified about all this, we did quite a bit of, research, investigation, talking to other places. Because this is moratorium, placed basically a responsibility of the city or city agency, if you want us to call it that. At the end of it, our conclusion was, no, we're not gonna stop people at the planning commission. Folks can come in and request, because they should still be able to do that, to come in and get the right. So, the way we would treat this is that the day the moratorium lifts is the 3-year running of the vested right starts at that point. So they would already have their preliminary plat.
Right.
You know, they've got to bring in their construction plans, they've got to get their grading permit. And they have to begin site prep, which is minimum. They have to do that within 3 years. So I want somebody to pick up the phone and call me the day the moratorium lifts, so I can make sure I know what that date is. That's gonna be an important date for anybody else that comes in here
Yes.
and has been approved on that. That's when their vested rights would start running.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
So they can move dirt from now till then, and then their vested rights start.
I don't think they're moving dirt.
They're not
They can't move
They
dirt.
just, they just sit on
They
the
just-
property, they just sit on the.
They got
plans.
everything done,
Okay.
but
And they
once
can't
that
move dirt
moratorium
until
lift,
the
they can
moratorium
start.
is over.
Yeah,
I
so,
believe that's the way that will.
yeah, so what he's done with this preliminary plat is he's basically established his lot sizes, what the design is. This one has the dual nexus, he's got the proposed right of way, and so the recommendation as far as this one goes is approval of the subdivision based on the procedural notifications. Regardless, these are the engineering comments that the Fowler Road will require improvements at the time that he starts constructing. So at the construction phase, there need to be additional improvements.
Or did Buck comment on those improvements on Fowler Road?
Will did. It's been running with the initial comments, but since he can't make it to the construction phase at this point,
Everyone's really not.
it's just the comments are kind of moving with the preliminary plat.
One more question, Ginger. However, if we make any changes to our design standards or our zoning
Doesn't
between
apply.
now and that day, they're locked into our current zoning based upon submitting it now.
That's correct.
Yes.
So if we make any changes, we can't require them to.
Yeah, I guess what I should say, I'm sorry, I
No, that's right.
mischaracterized what I said earlier. His vested rights attached to this this preliminary plat right now, excuse me.
Right.
And you normally think, okay, it's running for three years. I guess it's being told because of the moratorium,
Mhm.
his 3-year running of the vested rights is told. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I mischaracterized that. As soon
Yes.
as you all approve this, vested rights attached to this preliminary plat based on what our law is right now.
Okay.
It takes 5 years for that moratorium to lift. He still has the rights based on this. And the day the moratorium's lifted, that's when the 3 years starts running.
Right.
And so he would have to begin construction, site prep within 3 years from the day of the moratorium.
Okay. But it clarifies that he would be locked into our current standards regardless.
Yes.
He has the vested right to use those standards, yes.
Yes, and if you look at this photograph, this aerial photograph, you can see what the engineering comment is discussing, because at the end of Fowler Road, there is a place for a cul-de-sac, but it's not actually constructed. So that's the improvement that the engineering comments are addressing. And then I want to point out also, if you look at the type of housing development surrounding it, it's very similar to what the developer's proposing. So R3 single family definitely is compatible within that zoning district or in that neighborhood. Therefore, recommendation is approval of the subdivision application with the 5 procedural notifications. 2 of them are the general requirements general stormwater management agreement that's now required.
All right.
Motion to approve with 5 procedural notifications.
All right. Second, roll call.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yeah.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilhoit, Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, consideration of a preliminary plat, major subdivision, Stonewall Run. Phase 6, 27 single-family lots, zoned R3, total development area is 5.55 acres. Located west of Green Lane, identified in Bedford County tax records as tax map 78, parcel 11, Black Diamond Construction LLC owner, North Cut Surveying, representative.
Okay, I'm not sure, this might be the last of this particular subdivision. It's 27 residential lots in the R3 zone. This is the concept plan that was reviewed back in May 2024, and it is that northern portion that is phase 6. This also has the dual nexus. Those are public right of ways. So there's dedication of those, as you can see in the staff report. This meets all of our standards for the 27 lots, and therefore the recommendation is to approve it with the 3 procedural notifications, sorry. And one of the things that we've been adding more to the preliminary plats, well, actually the requirement for final plat is putting in the length, width, and the area of roads to be dedicated for the plat, make it easier on the auditing part of it. So.
Okay. Motion, anyone?
Make a motion to approve with the 3 procedural notifications.
All right.
Second.
Vote.
Seconded, roll call.
Mayor Carroll,
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Chairman Landers,
Yes.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yeah.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Woodward.
Yes.
All right, consideration of recommendation to the city council for the mayor to sign a multiple memorandum of understanding corridor access management agreement, CAMA, that includes participating jurisdictions. It's based on a corridor study from the Tennessee Department grant evaluating opportunities to improve access along State Route 437, 231 North, State Route 10, and 41A routes. It also provides a framework for participating jurisdictions and TDOT coordinate in managing access along the study routes. All right, John. I'm sorry. Got you off something over here.
And hopefully everybody had an opportunity to see the presentation. I don't know if you saw it live, but so through a transportation planning grant through TDOT, we received a grant to study these 3 routes. And I point this out in our comprehensive plan that this is moving towards some of our tasking priorities with access management, improving traffic impacts. They all going towards transportation. And then these are the access management goals, and you can see in the green all the areas that were part of the study area, and it included Rutherford County as well as Bedford County. And I don't know if you noticed some of these crash data, which I thought was kind of interesting. This is along 231. So this study included what is our existing conditions now, what is our existing access onto each of the routes, and then what are the recommendations to improve those access points and reduce conflicts. And this is not just vehicular conflicts, but this is also pedestrian conflicts. So within the study, there's recommended minimum spacing by the context classifications, and I don't know if you recall from from the study what they mean, but there's different context classifications like rural town, suburban, urban, And they're all color coded in the study for those areas. And then what are the recommendations for the types of access and spacing? And this is 231. We also have 41A on Union Street. And I highlighted all the areas where there are the higher crash datas. And like on 41A, we have the Remington Farm PUD that is in our queue. And one of the reasons why Colorado was an important intersection to study, you can see where the crashes are occurring on. And then as far as recommendations go, these are there's two types of recommendation, or there's two, I guess, overlaying features on it. One is the function of the road, whether it's arterial, whether it's a minor local road, those types of functional classification. And then the added one, which is the context classifications. And you can see there are recommended spacings for those. And then we get into the bypass area. And what are the recommendations for those? And within the planning document as well, there are recommendations for what planning should be, what their goals that they should aspire to, how to implement these agreements, and then also with engineering recommendations. And some of it, if you look inside into the details of it, like you'll see on the engineering side, updating the TIS process, we're already working on those aspects of it because, we don't wait around for the plans to be finished before we start. And then as far as coordinations with other jurisdictions, other agencies as well, is in the resource recommendation for the coordination. So as far as the staff report, I just pointed out that this was a transportation planning grant that the city council had approved by resolution to obtain the study. And then here we are at the end of it, which the results are the corridor access management agreements that staff would like the planning commission to provide a favorable recommendation for the mayor to sign off on.
Right.
And these are goals. And if you look at my resolution, I did write it that way because
Nicely done, by the way.
Huh?
Nicely done.
Because I didn't want, these are goals that we aspire to, so.
All right. Ginger?
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up. We also have to do a resolution. I mean, your resolutions for the 3 memorandum of understanding, you did a wonderful job on that. But we also have to do a resolution to
Yes.
close out the grant. Did they ever send us that? The consultants that took our pointer?
No, and actually, I'm trying to think back on what was written. I'll have to look back at my notes. I can't remember if they, because there's draft. I thought there were, or maybe there are draft agreements in the document, but I will find out.
The memorandum of understanding, those are
That's-
actually in the study.
Yes.
And so we would just attach each one to the appropriate resolution and send that to council.
Oh, yeah.
But there was not a resolution or any other kind of document in their study, their document, their big document,
Oh, yes, yes.
about the resolution that's necessary to basically wrap up the grant.
Yeah, that's what I wrote. I wrote 3 resolutions for city council that are within there for each of the different routes.
But all your resolution is to adopt the memorandum of understanding. There is to be a separate resolution to close out the grant. That's why I was asking for.
Yeah, and I think
4
that's,
things that we need.
yeah, and I think that's what the resolution is within there, but I'll check.
Do you think you have language in here that?
Yeah, I'll definitely confirm with them, that is sufficient enough. If it's not, then, I'll get whatever is necessary.
Okay, you're treating these resolutions as what they need to
Yes,
close
as what
out.
they need to close out, yes.
Okay.
Because, and the template, the way that, Spring Hill did theirs was they just did one for their entire
All
package.
offered, yeah.
I did separate ones
They're
because,
separate agreements.
we had 3 different studies, whereas other jurisdictions might only.
Ginger, could you explain to the commission a little bit in practice how the planning commission is going to use these, I guess you call them recommendations? Recommendations.
They have made recommendations in their large, I don't know what to call it, presentation document, whatever you call it, study. Let's call it the study
Yes,
that they have presented. And in it, in each section, because you did 41A, 231, and 437. And so in each one, they show you obviously the data. Then they actually have a map that shows you by color these context classifications. And so that's what Tom just referred to. There's going to be a difference between is it an arterial road, is it a side road, but also context so you really know the density of traffic on 231 in certain areas, the density of traffic. So they would like us to adopt those context classifications, which may just simply be that we adopt the map for each one. That'd be one. And then they have a table off to the side that talks about, it's almost a range of use, like, and I'm going to use driveway distances as one of the things in there. And so you would adopt basically what they have recommended. All of that stuff is in alignment with what TDOT already does. And so it's really something Tom and I've talked about, whether we drop it into our zoning ordinance or we drop it into subdivision regs, not sure about that, but those are the things. So really, if you go in, you all should have gotten at least, I think, the document by digital. If you go in and see each section, you'll see that map. You'll see the table, and those are their recommendations that we adopt.
yes, and that's what these images are for each of the, like this one's the bypass area. You can see for intersections, the different types, where they're signalized, and because the bypass, let's go to another one. This one has multiple character areas. The bypass only has one for right now because it's suburban. And the other item to consider too is that the way that we can implement it is by reference to this document. So we can do it by reference to this, and that way future corridor studies, as they get updated, can be by reference to that. And it's no different how we implement from the comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is a guidebook, and it has in there recommendations for improvements to, or let me put it this way. Comprehensive plans or maps, or even the Greenway master plan, or even this, they're all describes like what your goals are. How you implement it is through your zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
So was there a reason why they didn't include any part of 64 in the study?
It wasn't, the original grant was for these
Just the
3
grant.
roads, yes.
That's
It's
where-
not that we
There's where the traffic's at right now.
Yeah, it's not that we couldn't.
I was just wondering, I mean, like if we were trying to do a comprehensive evaluation of the city
Yeah.
and our,
I think they're looking at
Expansion.
where the more construction's happening, and not that it's not happening on 64 West or East, but I
right,
think we could all be in
Those
favor
are
of
the main areas.
the main areas, but it could be looked at.
Yeah, and I don't, I inherited this project, so these were the 3 that were selected, but
I
that
just
doesn't.
noticed we have a lot, there's coming in a lot more that's moving more in that southerly area.
Yeah, and there's not.
Matter of time.
Yeah, and there's not to say that we couldn't
Get another
obtain
grant.
another grant
Yeah.
for it, just to study that
Right.
route.
I was just wondering what.
Yeah. Because all these studies, you just layer the next study on top of that. Yes.
Okay,
Thank
I'll
you.
entertain a motion for that.
Well, let me just say, I sat in on that, and we talked about that in Colorado and Union Street and Lane Parkway intersection down there. Trying to make it exactly like the Kentucky Fried Chicken 231, 41A intersection is,
Yes.
to widen that and give turn lanes and things like that. So that would be a plus if we get all of the development we're looking at out to the west, or limited that development out there. I think that's one of the main issues. Also, the bypass. We've got folks looking at property and things on the bypass. And what is a bypass? It's a bypass.
Yeah.
You don't want driveways and things like that coming out on that bypass with the traffic that we have out there, such things as that. And we're looking at one or two
You need a service.
developments right now out in that area.
Yeah, a service road to go in and then.
Yeah, we need a service.
Because you're exactly right in that
Yeah.
area. But, you know, we've got so much planned in that general area
Right.
that all the commercial, they're going down Fairfield Pike and through Butler and all that. So there needs to be a way that we can plan to get something out that way.
Yeah.
Without damaging the character of the bypass and infringing up on that.
That's exactly.
Um,
Yeah, entrances either on McDale or in some of the instances we're talking about here.
Yes,
Fairfield Pike and some of those areas, but bringing residential traffic right out on that bypass,
No,
No.
I don't believe that's the intention at all.
that's my personal
Yeah.
opinion.
Well, and I think it's safe to say, TDOT's let us know that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They-
and that's really out of
There
our
will
hands.
not be, they will never give us
That's good.
another driveway. When they made that bypass, when they talked to all of those landowners, they laid out where their property access,
Right.
the ingress and egress is. And TDOT, for right now, has said there will be no more.
Yes, and the only thing that you can do with those drives, you can widen it, but also they might have to move too, depending on what's across the street.
And I believe we all recognize that that's a need there,
Yes.
and that it's almost a mega subdivision there that is on paper, and if built out today, could have a major impact on the inner city and on the commercial there, but hopefully we'll move at the same pace where the commercial development can keep up
And that's why, we've already started the planning initiative to, work on the access management ordinance, starting with the bypass. That's gonna be later this year. I've already got that scheduled and I've got my little minions, stirring the pot. So,
Okay,
well, I'm a minion with them, so.
all right, entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, or to recommend to the city council, a favorable recommendation to the city council. Camera State.
All right, motion made, seconded, roll call.
Commissioner Wilmot,
Yes.
Which is long overdue.
Commissioner Taylor,
Yes.
Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yeah.
Commissioner McGee,
Yes.
Chairman Landers.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Gill,
Yes.
Mayor Carroll.
Yes.
All right, consideration of recommendation to the city council, amending the city of Shelbyville municipal zoning ordinance, Article 5, Section 5.8, Plan Unit Development, Zoning District provisions by adding references to other sections of the ordinance and the city of Shelbyville design standards, removing conflicting language, clarifying the existing language of the section, increasing amount of open space, adding specific landscaping requirements within parking lots, and clarifying procedures for minor amendments and denied PUD applications.
Okay, so, this is the second part that I couldn't bring last month. That's related to PUDs, as well as design standard. I can speak on both, but they're separated out for a reason. So, we had, there were a number of, recommendations to change the PUD, including, and I'll just point out that the biggest things are to match the 30%, for the R4, any multifamily. Within this document is increasing it to 30% for open space, and then 15%, which is 50% of that, to be active open space. Or, yeah, I think that's, I'm losing track here, but at any rate, all of these sections, 5.8 out of 5.8, yes, Because there's a little numbering error in the actual table of contents. It says that this one's 5.9, but anyway, so 5.8, this is all related to the plan unit development. This was from the, Planning Commission Growth Committee that we met in January. All the recommendations for there, are incorporated in here, and any type of conflicts are adjusted for in here. But the other items, we reorganized it. Oh, I guess I could just speak on the plan unit development. I'll stick with that. But there's just some language changes as well.
Okay.
H, on H, minimum building separation,
Yes.
we put 20 feet there, and if they could go 15, if they demonstrate fire protection.
So the minimum building separation within any PUD development is 15 feet. And I will say that the reason why 15 feet was recommended was the whole purpose of a PUD is to adjust for the setbacks. And we have 10 feet now, and we have 20 feet. So the desire, if you want, designs through a PUD, allow for those types of adjustment, but it's up to you.
But
Well,
the International Building Code requires
Hold on,
anything,
hold on.
sorry.
Andrew.
No, I just clarify, when you said we have 10 feet is the current PUD minimum, is that what you mean?
No,
10 feet? What is-
no, it's actually less for the current one, and
So what is the current, when you're not?
I was gonna say, I think it's 7.
7.5.
7.5, and so then you said we have 20. What is outside of a PUD?
Yeah, so the base zoning for R1, R2, R3 is 10 foot. So you would have a separation of 20 feet. So then if it's 10 feet, then why do a PUD? Unless you're trying to adjust the front yard setback. That could be a reason.
Okay, now, one thing we did talk about, and I was on the growth committee.
Yes.
Now, when we got to the feet, are you measuring from the house or you're measuring from the eaves? There's a big difference. And remember, we got into that. We said the distance should be from the eaves. So it's not from wall to wall. Right. It's eave to eave, which if you go wall to wall, it's actually wider. And the reason for that was we've actually got some subdivisions where they got themselves lead there. On one house, they got it on the other, and if there was a fire, there's no way anybody could ever get down between it. So
Well, in that
That's
current,
we widened that, so it goes from eve to eve. Wherever that eve comes out, that's where your 15 feet would be. So it's actually wider than what you would think.
This reads
it
wall
says
to wall.
exterior
Yeah.
walls.
Yeah, so I
Not
can,
the exterior wall.
That's what the.
That's what it says.
Yeah, that's,
So we
It's
need
not
to,
supposed to, I
Okay.
didn't think.
well, it actually says the minimum side yard setback is within a PUD development.
Yeah, we discussed, Josh, we were discussing eaves.
Yeah, so the way it reads right now is that the minimum side yard or side setback within a PUD development is 7.5 feet. It doesn't clarify, but it's easily can be inserted in there that it's measured from the vertical face of the eave.
And we're just talking about property line to the exterior wall of the building. We're not talking about separation from multi-buildings on the same PUD development. So, I mean, because traditionally, a PUD is designed to have multiple type of buildings on there, residential, commercial, and such in between.
Yeah,
But many times you'll have a commercial building right next to a commercial building, there's only 5 foot between them.
yeah, and 7.5 feet, so that is to the property line, that is to the property line, so that you end up with 15 feet total
Total between them.
Yes.
Yeah, across the property.
And now,
And then one thing that I actually remembered that I didn't add into this is to allow for modifications based on the number of utilities.
now with a PUD, now here's the question, with a PUD, are we requiring developers to build per the IBC? Or are we requiring, if it's all residential, then the developer gets to build according to the IRC? So there's different exterior wall minimum, requirements for the exterior wall development from one versus the other. So if it's a PUD that has mix of residential and commercial, the IBC requires anything less than 30 feet apart from one another, building to building, the exterior walls be fire rated, whereas the IRC does not. And so if we don't add that into our local amendments, then they do not have to fire rate the exterior walls of a residential, but they will have to fire rate the exterior wall of a commercial.
Yeah, and that's more of a question that maybe Brian Stevens would have to clarify, because I can tell you how I did it. When I used to work in this field, is that the IBC was used to determine the fire rated construction of the walls based on the
building separations.
Yes, and the property line. And even regardless of whether it was residential or
But do you have that right?
well, ours is built in. I mean, in a way, when we require 10-foot separation between there, that you have 20 feet between buildings. I don't know what the separation is, or what the fire resistance rating is required for it. So I think that's on 19. It's supposed to be.
Well, anything under 30, sorry,
No, go right ahead.
is like, so the closer you get,
Yes,
the
the
stronger the
higher the
fire,
rating.
the higher the rating.
Yes.
So
2 hour,
2 hour, 4
Yes.
hour, right.
And so really that is a question for codes, because we've talked about this in relation to, sometimes you only need that one wall.
Right.
Really, it's not that all the walls have to have it, but that one,
That exterior
that
one that's
exterior on that
close to it.
side has to,
Yeah.
not necessarily the rest of the house.
You've
The
got open.
return would have to be up to 10 feet.
Yeah,
So it's that wall so you have this
Okay.
building and this building, this wall would be fire rated and then
and 10
10 feet on the
on the other
return.
side, right.
But
Sometimes on these side ones, the eaves, they'll go flat and run all on, on down. So not all of them, some of them don't have that buffer there. So I'm not sure. I'm still kind of hung on what word should we use? Because I mean, I like your idea, but if there is one with eaves and then one without it, because you've seen that design, you know what I'm talking about, where they don't have that there. And
We run from the
yeah.
exterior wall.
yes, it would have to just say, I think exterior wall.
Could be the closest, but really closest
wall or
structure.
structural building component.
But I like the eave.
Yeah, and there is a section that was updated within, if I can find it, about the references to building and fire codes, within it. That was something that was added. I think we only had building codes in there, not necessarily fire codes.
My concern is just that if we're developing a PUD and I've noticed here in Shelbyville that all the PUDs coming in are mostly all residential. So you're
Yeah.
building according to the IRC, which doesn't have that recommendation, the IBC does.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if it's under 20, then talk to the fire chief to be, I don't know, that's what I think.
Well, we
What
just
do y'all
can't make up the rules as we go along, that's why we need to have it in writing.
Matt Doak had some input on this, and that was his recommendation, because he just needed more room
Yeah,
if there was fire.
Right.
And he said, you got a central unit. He said, I don't know if you design, maybe have, all the central units have to be on the other side where there's only one that I gotta navigate. And which, a lot of that makes sense,
Yeah.
So,
And so if he would have his eyes on it, if it's anything under 20.
or if they're closer, maybe implement something in our zoning that we have a fire access lane that they can get at least front.
but on our
back.
trip, we took the Waleed in the bus, I don't know if y'all remember that, we went to some of them.
Yeah.
And I remember Matt was the one, he said,
Mhm.
now how do I get anybody
Yeah.
down in there?
Yeah,
And you don't.
you don't.
And he's the boots on the ground. He's the one that knows.
I mean, but jurisdictions all over the country do tall skinnies, where they're all 5 foot, I mean, they're 5 foot apart from each other. It's, urban infill. We're not quite urban infill yet, but they do it all the time.
Yeah, it's just,
But it does help us to have fire department access, even if we have, they get front and back access and we require them to at least have a fire lane that they can have that buffer front and back. Might not be able to get between them, but
Okay.
yeah, in section 5.8.2, G, under bulk regulations, number 4, that's where any modifications of bulk regulations shall adhere to applicable building and fire codes. It's generalized, but yeah, and then it's minimum building separation 15 feet, so 7.5 feet.
For those in the audience that won't know who Matt is, he's our fire chief.
Yeah, and then there's also a provision in the building separation when it gets to fire that any PUD may request a building separation of less than 15 feet. However, the applicant shall be required to demonstrate adequate fire protection. Of course, that kind of sounds a little bit contradictory to the.
What is that? Exterior.
Whatever our fire chief says.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, and they've, and this was brought before the pre-planning committee, so it's not like they didn't see, they didn't see the highlights, because they didn't see necessarily this full document. They were given the highlights of all the different changes which were incorporated.
Are they okay with the 15 feet?
Yes, they were good with it. I mean, I can check again if you know.
Well, I mean,
You were in the committee meeting with me, so.
I just remember when we were talking about, when we did talk about the eaves.
Yeah, so that may be something that I have to add to clarify within that, is to,
And even if they don't have eaves and they still got gutters and you got 6 inches here, it's at least that's a foot. So,
yes,
I mean, I'd like to see it from eave to eave.
okay.
Or clarify it as building, closest building component.
Okay, yeah, because,
So
yeah, because a
whether
lot of
it's an
times.
eave or a coping or a gutter or whatever it ends up
Yeah,
being.
because in,
Any building component.
yeah, because I'm trying to think of.
We can't foresee the future.
Well, I know that term is actually used in certain, when you're dealing with environmental, sensitive area, that you're to the closest building component so that you're not overhanging into that area. Yeah, you're not encroaching into that area, so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got one wording correction, Tom. J1, the last sentence. The way it currently reads, it says all PUDs that contain non-residential land uses are exempt. To me, that reads like a multi-use PUD doesn't require any open space. I think we need to either add the word, I'd say that contains exclusively non-residential. I think we're only, if it was an all commercial PUD, we're not going to require the open space, but anything mixed use, we still want open space in there, so.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that was intended so that you're not getting a commercial PUD that's requiring 30% open.
Right, yeah,
space.
we're not requiring that in commercial, but if it's mixed use, we do want it.
Yes, sir.
So we want either, I'd say the word exclusively between.
And for clarification for everybody on the commission, Thomas, what is our open space requirement right now?
For commercial.
For PUDs, it's
No.
10%.
10%.
Yeah, that's our current, and we're going to,
All right, I want everybody to understand that.
and it matches up with, our multifamily in the R3A, which was just recently, heard by the city council and passed on the first reading, as well as R4 zoning this year.
So if it's all commercial, will we not still want to keep some like landscaping requirements, open space, like, landscape buffers and?
Yeah, that's next item.
Islands?
Yes, I mean, there's,
The PUD, like, I'm just saying, if you have a PUD and you're saying that we give 30 if it's mixed use PUD, but if it's all commercial PUD, we still don't want, a gigantic parking lot that's nothing but parking lot. We still want to have
We still have design.
some
yes,
front setback, landscaping requirements. God bless you.
yes, and that's the other thing that, one of the changes was referring back to the design standards that, for commercial uses is in the design standards part.
Okay, so then that
So
just
it's
refers it
applicable,
back to.
yes, it's applicable to there. And then within this PUD document too, there are, additional changes for landscaping within parking lots, so you don't have a sea of parking areas. So,
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
just one thing I wanted to make the planning commission aware of. Tom and Lisa and I've already talked. I'm going to make a slight tweak to the adoption language, or excuse me, the amendment language, because you see the actual ordinance itself, he's done section 1, section 2, section 3. That, the last phrases in there, how he references, will be amended as follows and highlighted. We're gonna tweak that to make that more clear. So you may actually get that, Mayor and Councilman Blevins, you may get this document just as it is in your study session packet, because I don't know how long it's gonna take us to fix that. But know that we're gonna tweak that to make it a little bit clearer.
That's just language, that's not changing.
Yeah.
No substance, that's just to make certain,
Yeah.
for codification purposes, exactly what it is that's being, and we left out a section on here, we need to drop that.
Yeah, the other thing that we discussed is also striking, showing the stricken language, so that you understand what the changes were written in there. And I can get it done.
So the exhibits show you what it's reading as, we want to make certain to show you what the actual amendment is by striking it.
Yes.
So you can see the old language.
Yes.
Just want to let y'all know that.
Also on the setbacks, the 7.5 feet, we talked 10 at one point, I guess the growth committee discussed that, and if the 7.5 was the consensus.
I think that was the consensus on there, was 7.5 feet. Well, the discussion was is that if you don't allow certain adjustments to, the bulk standards, then it might dissuade people from going away from PUDs. That was the discussion part of it. Now, as far as, you want to make a recommendation during, that's solely up to the commission, so.
What are currently now, if they wanted to go, if it was 7.5 and they wanted to go to 5, would they have to demonstrate something to get that? Where I'm going with that question is if we put them at 10, and then if they want to come back to 7.5, is that something that, I just,
The only thing I could think is actually a variance from your
You
PUD
apply for a
regulations.
variance.
They can
Yeah.
apply for a variance from what the PUD regulations state,
okay.
but they have to demonstrate.
Yeah.
They have to demonstrate that there's something about that land.
Okay.
in which they
It would
can get
really
a
have to,
variance. And that would be mighty hard to prove in my opinion.
yeah, there's some times where a variance for a setback it's obvious that you need it. Most of the time, it's reason why, variances.
If we did 7.5 and we weren't comfortable with that, we could always, get together and maybe go to 10, or if we were at 10, we could always come back down to 7.5 too, right? It's not.
It's a living document.
Right. So.
I do have one more question to clarify. The 7.5 came from the ideal of that we wanted 15 feet between.
That's
And
correct.
so
Now go for the
7.5
book.
and 7.5.
Yes.
So is the language state that we have a 7.5 side yard? So what happens if we have an existing site and then you have that has buildings on it that's closer than that 7.5, and then a PUD wants to come in here? Should we not state that it needs to be a minimum of 15 feet from adjacent building?
Yeah, I think.
That's what it
It's-
says, that's how
oh,
it reads.
Does it
It doesn't say
okay.
7.5.
So it doesn't say 7.5. So if a development comes in and that building is really close to the property line,
Yeah, if it's.
they need to come in even further
Well,
to maintain the 15-foot separation regardless.
Yes.
It is, the minimum building separation with any PUD development is 15 feet, measured between the exterior walls of 2 adjacent structures.
Gotcha. That works.
And then this time,
So
I'll just
we
amend it to
split the
say,
hairs over the
well,
7.5.
I'll amend that to say as measured from the closest building component in that way.
It goes on to say a PUD may request a building separation of less than 15 feet. Maybe that's what you were getting at, Commissioner Good?
well, yeah, in the bulk regulations, it uses a 7.5, number, and then in the minimum building separation, that's where it has that separate, right? So how do those two coordinate together?
Well,
So that sounds conflicting. I
What-
get where it's getting at.
Yes, now get it now. He should be required to demonstrate adequate fire protection.
Yeah,
So
that's
this way, they can come in, misspoke. They can come in and ask you for less, it's not under a variance, but they're required to demonstrate adequate fire protection. We don't specifically
Meaning that
say
we
what
would
that is.
request a 4-hour firewall.
I would say 4-hour firewall, yeah.
Yeah, because it says you have to comply with your building and fire codes.
Yes.
And then, if it's okay, I'll also add the utility easement increase.
And then it would bear the burden on the new building obtaining the firing, the higher fire rating, because we have no clue what the the adjacent buildings can have, so unless we have documentation of that.
That's right.
So, I like that.
Okay.
But we probably need to find out what that is. Back to your point about a residential, whether or not, and I was gonna try to, we need to talk to Brian
Yeah.
to find out exactly what, for residential purposes, at what point do you have to have a fire rated wall?
Exterior wall. And if, yeah.
Would you rather I brought this back at the next meeting and,
Yeah,
and
I want to we've been on this for a while.
Yeah.
I hate to sacrifice it for that.
We're in a hole in our.
I mean, I think our bulk regulations state that we have to prove adequate fire protection regardless. So Brian,
Could we not?
with that language saying, we want those exterior walls to be.
the only,
You might have to be more specific about that.
yeah, the only
Because it
one
doesn't
that,
say it in the code.
the only one that would,
It's in the code.
It'll refer back to our residential
Right.
code.
yeah, the only one that would be impacted is the PUD, because if you see the design standards that is next on the agenda, that one applies to multifamily. And then we have the multifamily that just recently was adopted for the R4 and R3A. So the PUD would be the only one that is basically lagging. So
Something to keep it moving.
something to keep in mind.
That's what I'm saying, if we keep it moving and maybe
Yeah.
approve it and we can.
We can clean up the
adjust.
fire
We can
language
adjust
if we
clean
need
it up
to.
later.
Yeah, we're just trailing about a month now, but if we defer it again, we're now 60 days to let
Other
stuff
people.
come in at lower standards.
Okay.
Yep. Agreed.
Let's get with Brian ASAP to see, and, I mean, because the council can make they can amend this
They can-
in first reading,
Okay.
which I would prefer to do. I don't like to amend between first and second reading if I can help it.
Please,
Will we leave it tonight as is and then that is to the council
Yes.
to amend it?
recommend those.
Leave it, and then if there's any adjustments, the council can change it. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to send to city council with a favorable recommendation.
With the amendments.
With the discussion items that we had, the couple cleanups and language.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, seconded, roll call.
Okay, I'm so sorry, I need to clarify. So you're making a favorable recommendation to the city council,
Correct.
but we are not changing anything.
No.
Only the amendments that Ginger's gonna make to clean up the language.
And that one where, there was
Yes.
J1, the last sentence, we're adding exclusively.
I did put that.
Okay.
And then also the measurement to the, how to measure
To
the
the
distance between,
building.
and then if you could add the other one
Any
about
building
the,
component.
Right.
the PUDE, that we can expand.
I think Chairman Landers wanted to do any building component to the closest, whether it's a gutter or eave or whatever, because they're not strong.
HVAC unit.
But they still can catch on fire, so we'll just,
Okay.
to the closest building.
Okay.
Any building.
Okay. All right, I think I got it now. You ready? Okay. Councilmember Blevins,
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilhoit?
Yes.
Mayor Carroll?
Yes.
Commissioner Gill?
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Landers?
Yes.
Commissioner McGee?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Consideration of recommendation, city council, amending the city of Shelbyville design standards, amending section E, architectural guidelines by adding design standards for multifamily residential buildings, and section H, multifamily residential developments, by adding references to other related requirements within the design standards.
Okay, so, the proposed amendments that we saw in the growth committee were just incorporated into section H of the multifamily residential development. Only because I'm trying to keep the multifamily separate, because I have plans later on to amend it even further. But it was all the things that we discussed in the growth committee meeting. And then I did add, during the commenting period, there was something about the reference to the cladding material that applies to commercial. And I just took the opportunity, you'll see it on the exhibit A, this highlighted yellow, clarifying what corrugated metal versus architectural metal panel. So that's not necessarily dealing with the multifamily. I suppose it could, but it was more just a clarification of that part, since it was causing some, it was just contradictory, or it was just not clear, I should say. And then adding the reference to multifamily developments at the bottom, that they, where it referenced it into the different zone districts. And then exhibit B just shows what is being incorporated from the growth committee on that, so.
And just the same little tweak on the amendment language. Same thing for you.
Yep.
Shouldn't be much.
And this is a little bit easier to read on this side. It's just a summary of the updates that were provided inside the package as well.
Some of those guidelines are like, if we got multifamily, that they're not exactly the same, and
Yes, so some of the, we already had within our multifamily design standards for varying the plane, so you don't have that single front.
right,
And this takes it a little bit further
good.
in that each individual unit has a distinctive look. It doesn't mean that you have to have, different materials for each one. There's lots of different ways to satisfy it, so.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to provide a favorable recommendation to city council with the tweaks that the council is going to perform on the verbiage there.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made, seconded, roll call.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
Yes.
Chairman Landers?
Yes.
Commissioner McGee?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Blevins?
Yes.
Commissioner Taylor?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilhoit? Mayor Carroll?
Yes.
Commissioner Eagle?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Thomas, do you want to move into administrative approvals, or are we gonna do the Cooper deal at the end of this, or how do you want to?
I think we put the Cooper project in the staff report. Administrative one is pretty straightforward.
Administrative approvals then.
So this is the Wilhelm property. There's it was subdivided into two. It's currently pending approval. There's some things that need to be cleaned up with it, but I just wanted to bring to the commission's attention. This is what the applicant is looking to do, and there's some minor tweaks that need to happen with this one. So the approval is pending on that. And then I'll go ahead and move into the staff report on Cooper Steel. Sorry, not Cooper Steel. This is a different Cooper. Cooper Christian Academy.
There you go.
So Cooper Christian Academy came in and it was approved by the Planning Commission in April 2023. I don't think that's the total land area. That's off there. But this is for the Christian Academy. And Barry Cooper came in requesting phasing of the work. And then he also requested removal of sidewalk to Bethany Lane if permitted. And essentially what I'm asking of the commission is to define a threshold for returning back to the Planning Commission for any type of site plan amendment. We have standards that's related to PUDs, we have it to subdivision regulations. We don't have it necessarily for site plan. But this is in pink, or in that pink color, the salmon color, is what is being phased. So the section in white that is fronting on Madison Street is what's proposed to be constructed. And Mr. Cooper would like to see, what his attendance might be and then construct at a later time. But I wanted to highlight something in our subdivision regulate, ordinance about the validity of site plans, that it's up to 18 months. Mr. Cooper had mentioned that it could be up to 5 years before he builds it out. I don't think he's gonna wait that long. I think it's gonna take off pretty well, and he might have to end up building it sooner rather than later. But I just wanted to highlight that part of it. The other aspect of it is that he's requesting the removal of the sidewalk to Bethany. Now, personally, I think that, well, I will show it in two different areas here. In our future land use map, as well as our comprehensive plan, Madison Street, the whole point is for a lot of different ways of moving about. So sidewalks, bike lanes, all those things are the future policy for the character area. In our subdivision plan, really there should have been sidewalk on both sides, but since it was going off to Bethany Lane, that one side was proposed. Plus, one of the comments from staff members, because we met with the staff, none of us have an issue with phasing it. We thought that, it's not really impacting the project as a whole. We didn't know why you didn't do it in the beginning, but nobody, Shelbyville Power, Public Works, nobody has an issue with phasing it, and I don't either. Where I take issue is with, and where the majority of us took issue was with the sidewalk. And so, what I informed Barry Cooper of was that because this is a planning commission approval, then that it should return back to the authority that approved it for any kind of substantial changes. And we don't have it in our code that says that, not yet, because I'm planning on it. But that's how it should read, just for the sake, so that we don't have administrative approvals that are taken advantage of, which seems to be the case.
Two things that I'm thinking about. If you're doing the phasing, we're gonna have little children over there.
Yes.
And you got construction where those children, don't we have some different standards for education facilities? And that sidewalk would be one of those requirements?
Well, here's what was brought up, is that none of us are experts on the evacuation drills and things like that. My point was that there's actually sidewalk all along Bethany.
There it is.
So it's important not just to have vehicular connectivity through sites, but also pedestrian and other modes of transportation. And for schools, if you have evacuation drills, who knows how that might.
You don't want them to be in the road walking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
That's what was brought up by some of the members of the pre-planning committee.
What's the reason for removing that sidewalk? What's their reason?
Cost, yeah, and personally, yeah. And I explained to,
Doing all that, and they can't put a sidewalk.
well, and I explained to Mr. Cooper too, that personally, I didn't think that I think that the sidewalk should be constructed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that basically, one of the things that we had, when I worked in another jurisdiction, we had to do the same thing about establishing certain threshold of when it returned back to the commission. And whenever you're affecting parking, whenever you're affecting stormwater, whether it's bicycle or pedestrian traffic in general, it should return back to the planning commission for their approval on it.
This is a K through what scope?
I think he's going through 8 right now. He's not doing high school yet.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll say this, and I'm just giving out information here, and this is general, he's made this presentation out in public, so I'm not telling anything that hadn't been told in public. And my wife is on the board of directors in Cooper Academy, so I'm going to abstain. So I'm just giving information that it is 1 through 8. It will never go past that, never. It's not gonna be a high school.
Okay.
What now, they have 4 grades that they're doing now. They have 1 grade every year because as that grade graduates, you add a grade. So he's still got 4 more years before he'll even get to grade 8. And he said, to be honest, on the next phase, I have no idea. It could be 5 years, it could be 20 years. He said if the growth is no more than it is now, it'll be 20 years.
Right.
But he said, hopefully, it is in 5 years.
Yes.
You know, so that's kind of what he's telling the public, that's what he's giving the presentation, but that it would be 4 years at the max that he would do any other extra building right now, so.
Yes, and none of the pre-planning committee, they were, I guess, they didn't really, spend too much time on the reduction in the parking
And I will
space.
make a comment about the sidewalk, and this is information only.
Sure.
It's not a deal breaker. I mean.
Oh, I know, he told me that.
It's not. a
He
deal
told me
breaker.
that too.
He's like anybody else, he's trying to save money, but
Yes.
he's not gonna get mad at you if you say no.
Oh, it doesn't bother me. Yes, we had this discussion as well, so.
So, and he said he told you that, so.
Yes, a lot of people get mad at me for that. So it's nothing new. I mean, you know, planning gets blamed for even.
Well, in the original plans, and he said, and I don't know,
Yeah.
this is, he said in the original plans, I had it where it was phased, and he said, I don't know why it got, and he
Yes.
said that might be my architect's fault, it may be, he may
Well,
have presented it that way, but it
Sure.
wasn't supposed to be presented that way.
Sure, and none of us have any issue with the phasing part, because if for some reason that it goes beyond the 18 months, let's see, the above application must be, regardless, he's liable to come back. I mean, I would say that his traffic study is based off of the full build out. So, but we don't know what's gonna happen in the future, so, you know, but at that point, it can always come back, so.
Yeah.
But if there's no issue with, phasing part of it, then we'll go ahead and just give him the okay for it, do that as administrative level. And if everybody's okay with the substantial changes, you know, the different components of it, like, you know, like the sidewalk or any kind of changes, like I know that with PUDs, substantial change means moving, access points and right of ways, reducing green spaces or the things that are very critical to it, tends to be.
If I may,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman. So Tom, the site plan includes all of that,
That's correct.
and they want to phase that.
Yes, they want to phase that pink part.
Okay. And you want to do that administratively?
What I explained to Mr. Cooper was I'm not, as far as scheduling of the work is within his realm, if he wanted to phase that part, but the issue will be that once he gets the C of O for the other part, there's a certain time limit for that other phase.
To make it actually work, I feel like it has to come back.
Okay,
The site plan has to come back.
okay.
I feel like he needs to apply now to phase it. This is a long, long time ago, we had an issue about phasing not being on the documents,
Yes.
sort of done as an administrative type, shake your hand type thing. So
Yes.
to me, tonight, this is not satisfactory, just them giving you a nod.
Okay, and you know, we do that for subdivisions, because subdivisions are required to be phased because they're connected to vesting. And this is what we're talking about, is vesting of certain components.
Right, and so let me just say, I'm glad they brought that to you, because that's fine if you do a phase, but how that's approved and in our minutes makes a difference.
Okay,
And he did also add, he said that everything with Shelbyville Power, as far as water, sewer, and all that, will be in place for this expansion. So
Yes.
whenever that comes, we don't have to do any of that. He said all that will be in place. And he's talked with John Freeman, and John has agreed to even move a water meter for him wherever he wants it, if he'll do all that.
Yeah, and I will add to, what Ginger, suggested too, because one of the critical components and why there are certain changes that are happening internally, and it's just internally why we're requiring certain, notes on documents and things like that, is because of break-in continuity. When you have changed any kind of transitions and things like that, there tends to be that hiccup. We'll just put it that way. So.
Ginger, do you have a recommendation how we should handle that issue as to what you said?
I think they have to apply. I think the site plan has to come back if they want it phased.
And if Scott's saying.
And that's all for vested rights issues. I need to kind of take a look at it. I didn't know this was coming up, so I'm like.
And all I'm gonna ask is a question, clarification related to that. Are you saying that at year 4, if he phases phase 1 now, just doesn't build the phase 2, he come back in at the 4-year point with a site plan to then request his total build out because he will have exceeded the 18 months?
Scott, I feel like I need to take a look at it in terms of vested rights, and he needs to kind of understand, because there are provisions in the Vested Rights Act about phasing. How long, and so that's why I feel like I need to take a look at a little bit closer look at this.
Yeah.
Before I could advise
Well, this
on.
is just discussion.
I mean, he was just coming he wasn't actually asking you all to vote on tonight.
No, there was
And
no.
so I was like.
No, there's no vote. This is discussion, and that was one
Okay.
point, was discussion only to get
We
clarity from the board.
agreement on the sidewalk, that we like to keep the
Oh,
sidewalk.
Keep this out.
The other,
Back without that.
yeah, because,
Because of law, I suppose.
and since we've been dealing with vestments, that's another change that's coming in. Because there's vesting in different, there's vesting in building permits, there's vesting in site plans.
Right.
There's vesting in all of that.
Yeah,
That's a
and
very
it would be
difficult
nice.
statute, and so I need to really
Yeah.
understand what they're trying to do.
And you see it in, we found it in other jurisdictions in our research, on a recent one. Everything is established inside the code, so.
I don't want to tell them anything wrong, and I want them to understand that if they do it now or they do it later, may have an impact on what their rights are.
Well, that'll be fine for him, because I will tell you this. He asked me if this was gonna be discussed tonight. I told him it was not on the agenda and he was gonna be here if it was, and I told him it wasn't on the agenda.
I told him I was
He
gonna
would've
put it
been
on
here.
there.
And I said, no, I guess it's next month.
No, I told him I
And
was
he
gonna put
said,
it on.
I will be there next month, so he's expected next month anyway.
Okay, well,
So-
Yes, and I appreciate you looking into it, and I think we have time, because it's just now starting the building construction on phase 1 part. I'm just trying to figure out if I need to come in next month with a phase site plan, or if I can wait 4 years, he still get his certificate of occupancy on his phase 1, so that's.
I think the thing
Yeah.
is, you will lose your vested rights if you wait, is what I'm concerned about. I just want to make clear that we don't do anything that misleads the Coopers in any way, that they understand that it may be beneficial to them. And I'm not trying to give them legal advice, I'm just trying to make certain we don't say anything that misleads them. That they may choose to come on in and do the phasing now. Once they look at the Vested Rights Act, that may protect them.
Thank you.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
That's why we need to update our code for that. Okay, and if everybody's ready, I'll go on to the staff report. So we had our growth meeting number 2 back in, earlier this month, discussing traffic impact study standards. A lot of it is about thresholding on those, and then also looking at parking standards, and I'll distribute what, Kevin had from Gallatin on parking standards. All of these, nothing's gonna be coming up soon on these because we've got budget season. And so these different proposed amendments will be coming in after June sometime. So later on in June. And then as far as the growth meeting, number 3, that's gonna be I usually put it in second Monday of May, timing it around the same time as the pre-planning committee meeting. But these are the items, or I should say, this time we're gonna be focusing on the subdivision regulations. So every spring, there's been reviews of the subdivision regulations. These are all the items that so far that we've identified. It looks like a lot, but it's mostly just items within it. You can see incorporating Greenway Master Plan, right of way, improving those for bike paths because our right of way right now doesn't reflect that, doesn't reflect pedestrian doesn't reflect bicycle lanes and things like that. So we're already starting to begin the implementation of the Greenway Master Plan. And then improvement to public infrastructure. Those, you can tell which ones are bucks. The public infrastructure specifications, the no curb and gutter proposal that's shoulder required. And then I also wanted to just review the open space for the low, and a medium density residential subdivision. All the things that right now it's at 5%. So, and then the other item that's critical in this that we've made the promise to TDEC is that residential lots can no longer include stream buffers, but as a trade-off for developers, that can be used as their usable green space calculations. And then the last items, those are the 3 construction projects. You see Cobb Street right-of-way is in there. The preliminary plans in this one cycle, and then we'll have a site plan in April. April's gonna be busy. And that's it.
Okay. And there's nothing else. We'll stand adjourned.
I'm ready to adjourn. I had a.